Welcome to the Redvee TV Instant Reaction, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2025 season, following Saints' 17 points to 4 defeat against the Leeds Rhinos at St James Park in Newcastle. If anyone is tuning in to see what I feel about the Lewis Murphy sin-binning decision, you're going to be very disappointed, because Kevin has told me if I say what I want to say and what I did say during the game, he will delete this video from the YouTube channel immediately.
Yeah, I'm completely okay with that. Yeah, I am.
For legal reasons, obviously.
For legal reasons, yeah. You cannot repeat that on our show.
No. Slightly less.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
anyway, right.
tone it
Okay.
down a bit.
So we'll go back to the team selection. Iggy Parsi was rewarded for his 3 metres in 3 carries last week, not by being left in St Helens as the coach departed to go to Newcastle, but by being promoted to starting prop.
Yeah, I thought the 17 was quite bizarre. Giving Parsi the start, which if you're going to do that, you do it weeks ago. You don't do it now off the back of the performance on Thursday. You have a look at the bench; it's quite light. A mobile prop, Alex Worms, who's kind of been there, done that, the experienced one, and a 9. Yeah, fine with that. But then Johnny Lomax on the bench as well. It just smacked to me as well. Like, we sent Jake Wingfield up to do the media, and then you don't use him.
That's why we've sent him to do the media.
But you know, when you think, well, send someone who's definitely going to play then. There's a lot not to like about that, and there's a lot not to like about that 17. We were
Moses at 9?
Yeah.
Based on what?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Unless Darrell's got a knock. What's going on in training compared to what's on the field must be night and day, mate.
Well, I don't care what's going on in training, because it should be based on, at this moment in time, what's happening on the field.
Yeah.
If Noah Stevens sits on the sidelines in training picking flies out of his nose,
Okay.
I don't care. It's got to be better than what's being shown on that field by some of them props at this moment in time.
Yeah, it was a beaten pack again, wasn't it?
No joke.
We're just not creating enough, and the reason we're not creating enough is because we're doing the old systems with now old players, and we've not evolved at all, and we don't look like we're evolving. We don't look like we've got right. These are our players. How can we get the best out of this bunch here? We just look like we're completely devoid of ideas. We've got a young halfback who is having to kick long, and he's not had the greatest night tonight, but that's because he's playing behind a pack who aren't finding him meters. He puts a great ball through to Matt Whitley for his try, but apart from that, what do you want him to do? Make a bit of magic 30 metres out. That's when your props, when your first, second, third carries should be taking you up the field, and we're just not seeing it.
As soon as we go 10 points down in that game, 2 tries down, it's game over
for us. Yeah. And that's listen. Leeds are the team who deserve the win tonight. Their defensive effort, and I don't think they've been at the best. I think you could.
That's our Nadia.
Are we
still going?
Are we
to
going
the depths of hell
every single week?
We can't do it next week.
Well, we'll find a way. I think that Leeds were the better team tonight. They deserved it. I think the defensive effort was there. And
that is a Nadia.
Yeah, and they deserved it, but they did. And they created the chances and put the chances away. Second half, we should have done miles better. We really should have done. We just kept on getting chances. And is it that we're all trying to do it on our own, or we're trying to force it, rather than a phrase that I've used for years and years doing this is being honest. And you know what? Earning the right to score a try. Not throwing the ball about, not kicking it far too early, not trying to scoot from dummy half down the blind side and find yourself being stopped before you've made a metre. There's a lot of that team who need to think, right, let's do this as a collective. We can't do it on our own. We've got to do it as a collective. It needs a complete mind shift. And we said at the start of the show a couple of days ago that we're not going to keep banging the drum of coaching changes and stuff like that. But if the coaches can't get that mindset down to them, then we do have to go back and visit that. and think...
It looks to me like the players have give up. Or they're not trying for him.
Yeah, I'm never going to knock effort because they're not going out there not to play. But I get what you mean by that. No, I get what you mean by that. Yeah, because you think that just earning the right to get off your own line, kicking well, being able to put a set in and put it through the hands when you can, not try and force it. I mean, first tackle plays again that you just think, why are we doing this? Why are we forcing it? Why are we not just wrapping the ball up? Because we're not that good. Because we're not in form. Do your basics right.
Do you ever, if anybody ever watches like the NFL, if you've got a running back who consistently fumbles the ball, they get given the game ball and told to just for the next 7 days, you don't put that ball down. Even if you go to the toilet, you're gonna have to put it in one arm and wipe your ass with the other. You don't put the ball down until you learn to stop fumbling the ball. We've got butterfingers throughout our squad.
I just think it's again a lack of discipline at times, a lack of play smarts, a lack of discipline,
lack of concentration.
Yeah,
at times.
Probably. Yeah, and what does that boil down to? It boils down to the setup. It boils down to behind the scenes. It boils down to from the top to the bottom. That have we got it right in recruitment? Have we got it right in retention?
No. We're asking questions here.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah. The answer's no. It's
exactly.
Listen, the coaching's not good enough. The personnel on the field isn't good enough. The team selection's not good enough. It's just across the board.
Right, the team is better than we've seen in the past couple of weeks. Whether they're good enough, I agree with, but we're better than we've seen. Because even if you play standard basic rugby league and don't make them errors, you at least force teams to think outside the box.
Should that Saints team that is out there tonight, regardless of whether we thought you got the personnel right or not, should that Saints personnel still be good enough to beat that Leeds team?
I would be... Whether beat is the right phrase, I think we should still be running them a lot closer.
That Leeds
we should be forcing them into scoring more than 17 points to beat us.
Listen, neither of these two teams are going to be troubling the trophies at the end of the year.
No.
The question is now, we said last week, if you didn't get rid after Warrington, you're not going to do it. But then now, you've potentially, if you were going to do it, you've got a 2-week gap with not playing next week, which means we can't lose next week. Or we'll try and find a way. But if this is your one opportunity now, really, isn't it, if you want to do it. But the question is, if you don't think you're going to win a trophy this year, which we're not, from a purely financial aspect, in a cash-strapped game, business, throughout the board, club that's losing money, are you going to pay off a contract to go and fly someone else over mid-year and all the upheaval that's going to cause, or do you just literally ride out the year now? But the problem is, as we said last week, you risk just completely losing the fan base.
Yeah, unless you've got someone in mind. I think I said this after the...
I'm sure there's a short list of
a
few they're looking at.
But unless there's someone...
We're hearing names, so there are things around there.
I'll get this sentence out. Unless there's someone in mind... I'll unplug the mic in a minute if you stop it. If there's someone in mind, you make the change now. You make it sooner rather than later. If there's not, I think you do.
But the problem is then, if you do make that change, and that person comes in, and the results don't change, then the personnel's getting blamed on the field, and then the questions start going higher up.
So good.
Yeah, but the person who where it would end up would be the chief exec, chairman is well over shield at this moment in time to the end of the year.
But good, because questions need to be asked. Of every organisation, you've got to ask questions top to bottom. You can't just leave it on one person. So, to me, if the right person's out there, if the person that the chairman, chief executive, whoever's making the choice, wants is out there, you make the change now. Because you make the change now, and you let them work with what they've got. And because you are currently in the middle of the retention and recruitment process of the players who are there, let him be part of that chat and say, I don't want him, and him, but I do want to keep him. I know the fans might not like player X, but I want him.
Let's put this another way then. If you were an NRL assistant coach at this moment in time, or an international head coach at this moment in time, who had the opportunity to take the job at Saints, would you say, I'll come at the end of the year, I'll get involved with recruitment of what I want for next year, but I'm not taking over that mess at this moment in time. I'll start afresh next year rather than potentially starting my tenure with a load of players who I don't think are good enough and having to carry them through and try and sow a pig's ear.
There's a lot of...
is that the saying?
Make a purse out of a pig's ear, is it? I think make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, I think is actually the phrase. I think there's a lot of little bits of caveats in what you've just said, because would a junior Roos head coach, for example, have come over halfway through the year? And I know the junior Roos head coach got a bit of recruitment halfway through the year. Would he have come over after seeing a team that wasn't doing well and think I can change this round in a couple of weeks and take us to grand final victory the year after?
I suppose it depends how confident you are in your own ability.
Which every coach, if you're an international coach or an Aussie assistant coach, will be. Of course he will.
Right. Decisions in that game.
Yeah.
Now, people are going to go, oh, they're moaning about the referees again, they're blaming the refs. We're not, because listen, we're going to talk about the decisions, but chances are we'd have got the ball and we'd have probably knocked on.
Oh, we didn't.
First, second tackle.
We wouldn't have even knocked on. We'd have thrown a terrible pass. We'd have kicked poorly on the fifth. We'd have been absolutely crap.
But I'm going to ask some questions.
Okay.
Matt Whitley scores.
Yeah.
Leeds defender goes in with the knees into his chest, which Matt Whitley immediately calls Jack Smith's attention to. Jack Smith immediately waves it away and says no, he was in the act of making the tackle, but he's still gone in with the knees. But so it's nothing given. Okay, fine. Lewis Murphy jumps off the floor. His knee never changes direction. It's literally the mechanics of jumping. The Leeds man just doesn't bother jumping, which means that unfortunately Lewis Murphy has jumped too high and it touches his head. No one's denying what we've seen. There's no try off the end of it. The Leeds player knocks on. It's clearly not a try. Jack Smith goes up as no try on the field purely to see how to restart it by the looks of it. And off the back of it, not only do Leeds get a penalty, which is a joke to begin with, we see a man in the sin bin. And I think the words on the field were, you've led with your knees.
Right, let's go back to the Matt Whitley one. My thoughts on that are, I can see why he's brought it up to him. We probably see that most weeks in at least one game.
Does the challenge need to be made when he's already grounded? He doesn't make the challenge until the ball's been grounded.
Okay, what happened with the Regan Grace Tom Lynham one a couple of years ago where he led with the knees? Did we get the penalty for him in the act of scoring? Because if we didn't get the penalty in the act of scoring, then we're not getting it for that.
I know, okay, I'll go with it.
Yeah.
You're not getting it. But then how do you go and give that other one?
If Jack Sinfield's challenge last week was that a yellow that he got for that? And Lewis Murphy's is a yellow, and they're the same thing, contact with the head, then I would like Phil Bentham or Jack Smith or Ben Thaler to come out and just explain that to us so we can get a greater understanding of it, because that to me then says I don't understand that bit of the rules, because he's been sin-binned really for jumping higher than his opposite number. I know his leg comes out and hits. Are we playing a contact sport, or
do you in the future coach your fullback? Don't bother competing for the ball. Just
take a leg to the head.
Take a leg to the head.
I mean, arguably, if you want,
did we see Super League players this week saying like we want to see players stop play acting and things, and will not be funny. You're asking players to start doing it. I'm not saying the Leeds player didn't at all.
I don't think he did.
At all.
Yep.
But he's got a decision that even he didn't want or ask for.
I think, as I say, you go back to the decisions that were given last week, where you've got reds being given out where people don't think they're reds. You've got the yellow, and I think some of the journalists said the yellow was worse than the reds that were given out, We've had a yellow for that. Seems like we've flipped full circle from the start of last year to now. We've gone from, oh, hang on a minute, we're being too harsh, to we've gone back round again to we're being harsh again. Usually this happens at the start of the year, not like the third of the way through.
We were on top.
No.
In the second half, we're 10-4 down. Possession-wise, field position-wise, we were on top for 15 minutes without looking like getting points on the board. But the minute that decision gets made, the game is 100% gone from us because they go down the other end and make it 11-4. It's game over. I'm not in any way, shape or form saying we were going to come back and win that game at that. But any opportunity to, essentially, is gone. Leeds then score in the corner. The touch judge immediately tells Jack Smith and points and says his foot was in touch.
Does he, or does he say, I can't see?
I think he said, it looks like he said his foot's in touch. But then he goes up as a try.
Because Jack Smith goes up as a try, so I'm not sure if he says, I can't see that his foot's in touch. You need to check that.
I don't want to see that one.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay, Tristan Saylor goes up in the air, turns his body to face his own try line, bats the ball down and goes behind him. We pick up and score, and it's forward.
Yeah, okay. Well, he's stuck with the on-field decision. I think the
ifs, buts, and maybes on some of them.
Ifs, buts, and maybes.
But let's get back to saying we're not good enough.
Oh, we aren't good enough. We're nowhere near good enough.
Is it now a bemused acceptance of
this? No.
For me, it is. It's just like I'm not. When I say a bemused acceptance, I'm not shocked by any of it now.
Yeah, we said before, and we said on the show in the week that I didn't fancy us today. There's no acceptance there from me. There's no acceptance from being stupid, bonehead plays. Absolutely none. But when you think that we're not going to win, I suppose there is that feeling inside you that you think, yeah, this is just what we've got to come and watch. And thankfully next week we don't have to watch anything.
But that's how low we've gone. Where it's just I'm watching now, I'm thinking it's just bemused. Do you know what? I know when I watch us with that personnel, they're gonna drop the ball, they're gonna do bonehead plays.
Can we come round to
John Benison?
Yeah.
Right. So Wello in his post match just turned around and said, "No, that wasn't the plan, but we needed to make that change." Well, you've wasted a bench spot by having to do that.
Yeah. That right-hand side was getting absolutely hammered.
That could have been Noah Smith. He's a new signing. That could have been Noah Stevens' 8 minutes if we had had another prop on the bench.
Or Jake Wingfield. But, yeah, that, to me, it's the second time it's happened to John Benison. You've now got to be surprised if you ever see John Benison in a Saints shirt again. And I think for the good of his future, he should be looking. He should be looking elsewhere. I don't think too many people, no offence to Benison, I don't think too many people will be upset by that because I think we need some type of pace and I think we need a little point of difference in various bits of the team. But
he's took him off for being John Benison and doing what John Benison does. Yeah. You know what you're going to get before you've even picked him. So then don't drag the lad off. I can act shocked because he's not Ben Barber.
Yeah, the bench wasn't big enough today. We didn't have enough options off that bench to keep rolling it. When you've got Iggy Parza doing 15 minutes, then coming back on after 60, it's not big enough. You need that point of difference on your bench, and having a back and really a hooker. I don't care if he plays a bit. If we move somebody to 13, doesn't matter. He's a hooker.
Does John Benison get pulled off there by Wello because he's not brave enough to take Tristan Saylor off when he wants to put Jack Wellesby back to fullback?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we've said that there's the option of putting Saylor on the wing, and I think I'd love to have seen that run without the slip at the start. I do think that some of the Leeds players would have probably caught him, but I'd love to have seen it without the slip at the start. But I think there's the hierarchy almost there is the fact that you're not dropping your NRL signing, you're not bringing him off, and you're putting someone who can make something happen. I've mentioned it before with other Aussie imports that have been bounced about places because you want to keep them on the field because they can do something. But a little bit of me thinks whether John Bennison is good enough to be a Saints starter, I'm quite happy to debate with anyone, because I would say he's an able deputy at best. Shouldn't be wearing number 5.
I just think if you're making the decision to take Bennison out and put Sailor on the wing, you do it before the game. You don't do it during it like that.
You're wasting a bench spot. The bench wasn't big enough today to, at least in that second half, when we're trying to get on the front foot, when we're trying to make things happen, when you're trying to set a platform, you've not got enough to do that. You've not got the changes. You've not got the opportunity to bring someone off for 10-15 minutes, give them a bit of a rest and get them back out into the action.
I think I'm going to finish off by saying we've fell below Leeds in terms of performance, results, and Leeds have been a low bar for the last few years, and we're now dipping under it.
Well, Leeds are very honest in defence. I don't think they make an awful lot going forward. Obviously, they've actually taken the chances they've made going forward today, but I think that we could learn a little bit defensively from, because we've not adapted how we defend. A couple of times we looked, they were putting it wide, first half especially, hammered our right hand side, would go left, and still looked like they had a 3-on-1, 3-on-2 overlap.
Are they benefiting from blooding young players and being prepared to stick with them? Now, I seen there was a comment on the Redvee TV show saying about we were wrong the other night, saying we won't play young players because I think it was Mersey saying in the comments, who was saying because we played them all last season in what was a crisis season. Yeah, because we didn't have anyone else.
Yeah.
The minute we've got the option of leaving Moses and Bayo, Iggy Parsi in there, the youngsters aren't considered, because it looks like we're picking by contract size.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, because last year, with all the injuries, you have to pick these young lads. They've got to come in, they've got to play. And you almost think that in the centres, before we signed Dion Cross, there'd have been, you look at Johnny Vaughan, who's obviously gone over to the dark side and he's now on loan at Salford. He'd have played at centre past couple of weeks. He'd have been in there, because he was the next cab off the rank before Deon Sambu, so he'd have been in. And it's disappointing to see that reputation is a key factor in being picked. I get that people have cash in the bank, so to speak, with it, but when you're making mistakes and not being where you should be at your benchmark, you'd hope that the lads who are next in line are the ones who are put in and given a chance. Again, I'm not asking for the academy team to be played next time we play. I'm asking for a couple of changes, because we know that's all you can do. I'm asking for a couple of changes to freshen it up, to show that, you know what, I'm not getting a tune out of this, so I'm going to change it. I know we sponsor Noah, but Noah needs to be one of them. You can't wait for Harry Robertson to get back, because he's someone who can make something from centre. I'd
almost argue like Jake Burns needs to be in as your backup.
Yeah, and I know his defence can be questioned, but
he offers you a little bit of pace around
the ruck. It's not a slow play. The ball, who play the ball off the floor rather than picking it up and passing it, a la Joey Lussick.
Right. I think that's us done and dusted. We've got a long journey home, so we better go away. David Allison, this one's for you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.